got a really great revelation today about the scripture that says, sin is crouching at your door, but you must master him. You know, Satan's name is sin. And he came with his words, and his words were his thoughts, and he spoke his thoughts, and Eve ate them, and she gave them to Adam, because thoughts are words. And man, if we could grab the little thoughts, it is those little thoughts that come in our head that can be the biggest of problems. And maybe that's really where the battle is, taking your thoughts captive, right? Because the heaven and the earth were created with words, right? Thoughts. And the Father said he would never have believed what man thought up to do. Psalm 51 talks about being conceived in sin. You know, babies are born lovers of pleasure, right? And I'm being sarcastic there, but you know, if you get what I mean. They came into the world loving pleasure more than God, right? They have to be taught to love the Father and other children. God said sin is crouching at your door. Its desires to have you. Satan gets to us through our thoughts. So if we stop to consider where a thought is coming from and where it's taking us, then we can learn a lot in the inner battle of life. How did Satan master Adam and Eve? With thoughts, words that accused God and excused them. And they blew off asking questions. Eve didn't ask Adam. She just impulsively ate the words of the beautiful angel of light, right? Adam didn't talk to Jesus either. He impulsively ate Eve's words. And they both got mastered by not taking their thoughts captive, talking to God, the Father, Jesus, whoever was in the garden, all three of them, and letting words slip on in. Just let those words and thoughts come on in. No door there to lock them out. So what I realized in saying, I used to say, I don't have a control over what I think or say or do. And it's absolutely a lie. Even when we give in to whatever self-indulgence we give into that we think we can't help, it's absolutely a lie, because God wouldn't hold us responsible and accountable if we didn't have a choice. So when I'm not choosing something that's in my best interest, Christianity is about overcoming the liar and the lies we believe. It's in the Lord's Prayer. So we are the boss of us much more than we are duped into thinking we aren't. There's a verse in the Bible that puts it this way: the spirit of the prophet is subject to the prophet. Jesus wants us not only to free us from condemnation, but to realize we are the boss of us. We can choose life or death. We just have to wear the hat and not let the 3-year-old brat in us that thinks and acts and speaks like a child, nor the teenager that judges everybody, rule, or the father of lies, right? Hand over authority to the devil. So the truth about me is, when feelings start coming my way, I tend to take my hat off and comfort my feelings. That just make everything physically and emotionally and spiritually a little worse when I eat more than I should, right? So something I learned about myself last night, because I ate a little more than I planned, is having people in my life that I don't feel like I can earn their love. Because when people force you to live around their happy place and keep up their walls and their control, you feel like you have to earn their love through works. And it's kind of a crazy world, because they think they have to keep their little safe places because you're the one that's putting something on them. But it's really easy to feel rejected and condemned for people, and responsible for their happiness, especially when they make you responsible for their happiness by giving you the rules you have to live by. So if I look into Jesus, I'm fine. But when I look into people that don't do well with their own soul in the battle of life and loving God and loving their brother, I get really emotionally weak at times. And I take the hat off of me being the boss of me. And we're all in a war that involves our emotions, our spiritual being, and our physical being. And we're all fighting off different vices that are destructive, right? Because the war is on, game's on every day. So when other people are just contradicting themselves in the war they're in because they're just being earthly sensual and they're getting devilish wisdom and they condemn themselves in what they do, it's hard for these people to be free to love. They're not free to love. They have walls up. They have safety zones. They have bars at the castle. They have rules you have to obey and how you interact with them. So it's easy to feel like you have to do tricks for these people for them to even like you, much less love you. And the devil is really all about accusing other people and excusing us in the battle of life. Everybody else is responsible for my happiness but me, right? But that's where being merciful and avoiding taking these people rejecting you is really important. Because when people, again, are just living for their own pleasure and living for their own lusts and vices and fun and to get their own needs met their own way, they don't really have the love of God in their heart to be merciful and forgiving and kind and pure in heart towards you. So if you take them personal, you have to realize that they're probably a lot more insecure than you are, right? And we all want to be free to love, really, and we want to be loved. So whenever that mixture isn't happening right, it's easy to get some comfort from food or whatever destructive vice is up your sleeve that the devil has up his sleeve for you because you feel slighted in love and respect is the ditch you can go down into. And when you think other people are condemning you, it's easy to be self-condemned if you don't have a lot of understanding. And in some ways, I've tried a lot to do more for people in the battle of their soul than I actually can. I was telling a story earlier about years ago, like 42 years, 44 years ago. I was with a man who actually told me he was practicing cunning, crafty witchcraft with me, and everything was a plot to manipulate and control. And he even said to me, "Don't you realize that I've never lost a chess game in my life? You've just been a pawn on the chessboard of my life." And that was a big pill to swallow down, but I realized even in my relationship with him, the Lord told me to let go of trying to fix him because I didn't know how to bake the cake of his salvation, and continuing to think I did and to try to take responsibility for his happiness when he was fine condemning himself in what he allowed so he wasn't happy was a war I couldn't win. So we can't force feed anybody God's words or our words of truth. And true happiness can't be the responsibility of anybody else but us. True happiness comes from not condemning ourselves in what we allow. And if we allow ourselves to not really give a rip about the Father who created us, to love the Lord with all of our heart, and to love our neighbors ourselves, we're not going to really be happy. People like that aren't really very happy. So I'll speak for myself here, because when I feel overly responsible for someone else who blames others for not doing inwardly well, that can turn into a food sabotage for me, because I can feel like I need to sabotage myself because I'm a bad girl, because I'm not making people happy, and I'm the source of their inward war not going well, right? It's a ditch that I've had to fight and not feel rejected when other people aren't doing well in the battle of their own soul. So I've known a lot of people because I'm older now, and I realize one thing: when people are lost in destructive vices, it shuts out the door to really meaningful love, because that connection in the true battle of life doesn't happen with those people. But it's what we all really want and need, to have that deep kind of connection. I have many regrets too. When I was really young, I had a bad food drunk problem, trying to solve my problems with it. And it kind of kept me in a shell of real insecurity, because I wasn't fighting my own battle very well. And I separated myself more than I should have. I wouldn't go to parks and I wouldn't do things with my kids. That I regret that now, that I didn't do better in the war of my soul. It's kind of like being an alcoholic with food. Anyway, I married a no-excuse guy 38 years ago, Gene Sullivan, who helps people count the cost, helps people be the boss over the brat and the demon on their shoulder. And he was raised by a World War II command bomb pilot that turned him into a heavyweight boxing champ, among other things. He's been the boss of him when it comes to food and other things too. But I grew up in a very destructive home, given over to all kinds of vice. And I'm glad to be able to up my game on the lies I believe in, the excuses I make. Every day's a new day to call what we think is good bad, and what we think is bad good. That really is in our best interest, because we tend to see things backwards. And believing I was helpless and a slighted victim took me to very dark places. I'm the diseased victim. You know, I can't be loved by God or man, and I'm so diseased and helpless, I can't love God or man, right? It's trash thinking, really. And I learned to play the guitar at 9 years old and sang the blues about a girl that love went bad, and so she hung herself. And I sang that song all over the school when I was 9 years old. Sadly, that's how my life played out, in self-pity and victim thinking. And man, if you have people that just give you man's comfort and treat you like a victim, run for your life, because those people will help you become suicidal, and you won't even know what happened, and they won't know what happened either. I hooked up with a guy when I was 17 who was told he had a disease too, and he couldn't make choices. He was an alcoholic. That 7 years with him was very dangerous and deadly due to diseased thinking, with many professionals involved who should have been screaming danger, not disease. And it's a miracle I'm still even alive, and my children are alive too. And I'm all about singing a different song now, learning the lyrics to the 3-year-old brat better every day, and learning the lyrics to the demon on my shoulder too, who's on a mission to kill, steal, and destroy with thoughts, with words. So I'm thankful to find fellow soldiers in the battle of life to sing a new song with. And you know, a lot of people make light of their sin, they make light of their struggles, they make light of their vices, and we really shouldn't, because if we give the devil an inch, he'll take a mile. And you know, I just pray that this helps you today overcome the wiles of the devil, to be forgiving, not take people personally, and realize maybe they're not doing well in their war. And you know, people that even don't want help in that war, you might as well just wait till they do want help. And you know, what matters is that we keep our good spirit for the sake of his kingdom and his power and his glory to be seen in our life, and not give in to the little wiles of the devil, the false comforters that really can do a lot of damage to our good spirit. Amen.